This is Dom Bettinelli, the CEO of SQPN, with a brief but very important message. For more than a decade, SQPN has produced the Catholic faith and pop culture podcasts that you love. We're a nonprofit organization, so it's only your generosity that lets us carry out our mission. We haven't run a fundraiser in 2 years, and that's why we need to ask for your help right now. Please make a pledge of whatever amount you can afford to help us continue providing your favorite podcasts, as well as exciting new ones we have planned. To make your pledge and find out about the free thank you gifts we'd like to send you, visit sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. Thank you for your generosity. May we hear from you today? You're listening to The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of SEAL Team, where we will discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings of this CBS TV show about the U.S. Navy SEALs. And joining me today on the panel is Father Chip Hines. Hi, Father Chip.
Hey, Dom. It's good to be back with you.
It's excellent to have you. I assume you are not a U.S. Navy SEAL or former Navy SEAL.
No, I am not. However, if I was, I don't know. I'm not sure I could tell you.
That's right. Well, I will say I am not a.
I'm not,
and never have been a U.S. Navy SEAL. Before we get into the show, let's talk about. First, I want to, as I usually do, remind folks to like The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows on our Facebook page, the SQPN Facebook page. Find the episode there, like it, comment on it, share it, retweet the show on Twitter if you're on Twitter. That helps us get the show out to more folks. If you leave a comment or write a review on one of the podcast directories, that's very helpful for us to reach a greater audience. If you are not subscribed to the show, please do so you can get every episode. Subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app. I like Overcast for iOS, but there are plenty of other good ones out there. Or you can subscribe on YouTube, where you should hit the bell to make sure you get notifications when we post a new episode. And, like I said, share the podcast with your friends to help us grow our community and reach more listeners. And then before we get into the show, again, one last message. SQPN, which is the network that this show is a part of, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, a Catholic ministry. We do these shows because we're exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture, and by looking for the hidden layers and deeper meanings in various, pop culture topics and other things. We have a number of great shows. We have this one. We have Secrets of Doctor Who, Secrets of Star Trek, Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, and a few others. If you go to our website at sqpn.com, you'll see them there. And we are in the midst of a giving campaign. We have bills to pay. Doing these shows, it costs money. We have hosting costs. We have personnel costs. And we have not done a giving campaign in 2 years. So we need your help now. The need is urgent. If you enjoy these shows, you want to see them continue, we need you to respond, as soon as you can and as generously as you can to sqpn.com/give. If you go to that page, you can click on the Become a Patron link and become a patron of SQPN and support these shows. And if you do that, we have some gifts for patrons at different giving levels, and they are related to several of our shows, Doctor Who-related gifts, Star Trek-related gifts, and Miss Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World-related gifts. So if you can do that, we would greatly appreciate it, and it will go a long way to helping our ministry continue through these podcasts. sqpn.com/give. So SEAL Team. Let's the quick recap on SEAL Team. It's a primetime show on CBS. It premiered last 2017. I can't say last because who knows when you're listening to this. But in September of 2017, it premiered. It stars David Boreanaz, who you've seen on many other shows, and it's about not just any group of Navy SEALs, but a particular group. They're called the Special Warfare Development Group of the Navy SEALs, which is the most elite. So Navy SEALs are special forces. They're elite. The most elite are Dev Group. They call them Dev Gru or Dev Group or the Development Group. What they used to be called SEAL Team 6. That's when they hunted down and killed
Osama bin Laden.
On
my birthday.
On your birthday. Well, happy birthday. But then they became a little too famous, quote unquote, and they changed names to kind of preserve a little bit of their anonymity. Although everyone knows who they are, it's a special warfare top secret. But anyway, so this series follows Bravo Team, which is a subunit of DevGru, and it follows them both in their missions, but also in their personal life, their private life, their families, or what have you, and follows most specifically, I'd say, so if you agree with me, it pretty much the two main people it follows are Hayes, played by David Boreanaz,
Jason Hayes, right,
and Clay Spencer, the young new guy.
Yeah, I'd say that's true, and with Ray probably being a solid third.
Yeah,
and Mandy maybe a fourth, although her personal life hasn't been followed, but her work life certainly has.
Right, and so it's an ensemble. I mean, you have about 5 or 6 main characters, and then a large group of secondary or recurring characters around them. So there is. So we've got like so I have to preface this by saying we're going to spoil a few things. So if you haven't seen up to the latest episode, at the end of October, let's see I get the list right here. If you haven't watched the episode that aired on October 31st, 2018, called "Say Again You're Last,"
you are warned.
You are warned. We're going to talk about everything up to that point. So the first season and the second season, there's sort of a little bit of a dichotomy, which is the first season had a different executive producer and showrunner, and then at the end of the season, CBS changed the people running and writing it, at least in charge of running and writing it, and we have new producers, and they've kind of changed the focus a little bit. The first season, it was 22 episodes, and it was kind of split evenly between the first half of the season was they were living at home in Virginia Beach or thereabouts. Let's say Virginia Beach, Virginia, and deploying around the world for particular missions. And then the second half, they were deployed to Afghanistan, and it was all taking place in Afghanistan, and there was a particular focus of that part of the season.
Yeah, a particular mission they were on.
Right. And
they were sent to find out what happened to Echo Team. Exactly.
A team that had been wiped out. And the first season, it felt like, especially in the beginning, it was a mission of the week. There was a couple of things that continued on, especially relationship things. Hayes' difficult relationship with his wife, and his daughter is old. His daughter was the older child. Ray's wife was pregnant. Spencer had issues with his dad, who was a former SEAL who had written a book, and that was a big no-no, apparently, and so on and so forth. And then the second half of the season, there was more of that, like you said, there was a specific mission that they were trying to find out who had killed their comrade.
Right.
But this season, it feels different. There is much less mission of the week. In fact, they had one mission that took place over the course of, I think, 3 episodes. The last one, where it was set in Mumbai, India, during a hostage crisis, and so that they spread that out. What do you think? Is it better? Did you like the way they did it last season? What do you think?
I do like a mission spread out a little bit more, because it seems more realistic to me. When they would do a mission a week, it seemed like they were wrapping up a pretty complicated thing in a very short period of time, which is typical for television. But still, it for a show that seems pretty realistic in its nature and seems pretty well researched in its in its understanding of the Navy SEAL life, it felt a little rushed. I don't know. Yeah, a little bit rushed. I always go back to a Homer Simpson quote for this, because there's always a Homer Simpson quote for everything. That wrapped up nicely, but it's a bit quicker than usual too. Which is, hey, these things seem to wrap themselves up in about 42 minutes. That's pretty handy. That's right. Yeah. So, Yeah, I like that they did that. This season, however, I think, it's interesting. It's the Mumbai episodes. The team had a different leader because of what happened in Jason Hayes' personal life.
Right.
And I think that was an interesting, part of that arc.
Right.
And because Ray, who had been number 2 guy behind Jason, was number 6 guy.
Yes.
And Clay, who was still a fairly new guy, had bumped up to number 2.
Yeah.
And so it was watching that whole dichotomy or whatever of all those different characters operating, in this situation with this new dynamic was interesting. The whole storyline, the arc of Jason struggling with we're
going to spoil it. We're going to spoil it.
Yeah, with the death of his wife.
Yes.
And the aftermath and the effects on his children. He walks away from the SEALs. He stands down. They call it standing down.
Right.
And he stays with his family so he doesn't go to Mumbai. In the process of all this, he's struggling with all that,
right.
like struggling with walking away because they do think of themselves as family.
Yes.
And
he knows he's the best. He's the best
right.
of the best. Like
right.
he's the team leader for the best team of special operators and the best unit of special operators in the world.
Right.
And it's hard to walk away from that responsibility, I think. I think they make that bit kind of clear as well.
Oh, I agree. I think they make that very clear, and his confidence in his abilities is certainly palpable.
Yes.
But I think that whole issue with him, with his real family sort of crumbling, and then his SEAL team in danger.
Right.
It was interesting to watch Jason go through the pain of all that.
Yeah. And we knew.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It really gives us an opportunity to see Hayes' struggle in the range of Bonaires's acting.
Well, there's the grief that he went through in this. I mean, it's real. It's not. There's not platitudinal. He doesn't get over it by the end of the episode. He doesn't get a pat on the head. Doesn't buck up, guys. We're it hurts, but we're going to go out and, do it again. No, I mean, he's angry. He's grieving. At one point he kind of says, look, I'm the one who's supposed to be dead, not her. I'm supposed to, he had settled in his mind at one point, even though he had always reassured his wife that he's coming back. He'd settled in his mind that one day he would die on a mission. And that's that. And not to mention that they were in the midst of getting a divorce. Like they had split up. She had told him, like, even if you quit the SEALs now, you are still, you will resent the giving it up. And it just is. And, I'm no fan of divorce, of course, and I don't think divorce is necessarily always is necessarily should be a solution. It's like, especially in something like this. But it's a real struggle. I mean, these guys, their families struggle. In fact, we have Adam dies at the end of that last episode, the guy who had taken his place on the mission, and he has to go tell his wife and daughter, the widow, your husband died on a mission. I can't tell you where. I can't tell you how. I can't tell you anything except he died serving his country. And that's it. And of course, the wife guesses. She can guess that it has to do with what was on TV, this situation in Mumbai. But it's like, man, that is, I can't imagine the families that have to live with this. Every time he goes to work, he may not come back. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, and when you see that that Navy personnel show up at your door in dress uniform,
right?
You know automatically something bad has happened. And I thought it was interesting. The character of his daughter has grown this year.
Yes,
and it's been a great growth to see this young actress, sort of come into her own in this role.
She's really
Especially-
good. Yeah.
She is good, especially in the last episode
Yes.
where she insisted on going with him to the notification, which is a no-no.
Right.
And she insisted on going because she wanted to be there because she knew what the daughter was going to be going through.
Right. Because
And
she
so
just lost her mom.
Her mother, right. So she insisted on going, and I thought that was pretty powerful. Not to mention the fact that, basically Jason says, he was there because I'm not there.
Right.
And that's a powerful moment, too.
Right.
And you can see that she doesn't look at it kind of that way.
Right.
She's more sympathetic to him than he is to himself.
Right. He's hard on himself. Now, at the end of this, his daughter, Hayes' daughter, kind of turns to him and says, you need to go back and do this. This is
right.
And he's giving it up because he's saying, I can't make my children orphans. Their mother is already gone. What will happen to them if I die? Because he just kind of has this idea that I'm going to die on this mission. So if so he has, as you said, stood down, and his daughter says, no, you have to go back because this is who you are. Do you find, like, I knew that he had to go back. I mean, they had to find a way to have him go back.
It's SEAL Team,
and he's the star. I mean, if he's not in the SEAL Team, it's not
What's
the show.
What's he doing there?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering how they would have a believable way for him to go back. Do you find it believable?
Yeah, I do find it believable because I think that's kind of what when they showed the death of Adam, I said, well, that's
right.
That's
Clearly.
Jason's way back in.
Right.
And I figure, his commanding officer was upset to lose a guy like Jason. I think everybody kind of recognizes that Jason is like the tip tops.
Yes.
And so probably and his paperwork probably hadn't even processed.
Right.
Knowing the Navy.
Right.
As I do.
Yes.
My brother served in the Navy. My sister-in-law is still in. I have a friend who's a chaplain. Things move slow.
Yes.
So while he may have stood down, his paperwork was probably still on his commanding officer's desk.
Right. The captain probably hadn't even signed it yet.
Exactly. So I found that fairly believable. Yeah,
Okay.
I actually did. I thought that the daughter's reaction was believable too.
Yeah. Because
she's not a one-dimensional character. She's so much more than that. Now, she's not just like
she's not just a bratty kid.
Yeah. Hi, sweetie. How's your school going? She's much more three-dimensional than that now. And I think it's a realistic reaction. She doesn't want to see her father, become something less than he is.
Right.
And that's what would have happened to Jason had he had to leave because of this particular, reason. If he can't leave on his own,
his own terms. Yeah.
It was going to be a disaster.
Right. Personally. So, one of the things I thought, when there's a casualty call like that, an officer or others, person like Hayes is Master Chief would go, but there'd be a chaplain as well. They didn't have the chaplain go with him in this case, I think for dramatic purposes, but in reality, a chaplain would go, which has got to be tough. In fact, we, now that I think about it, we probably should have had, Father Matt come on and talk about being a chaplain. Maybe we'll if we ever do another episode on SEAL Team, we could do that. So we've kind of jumped to the end. So let's kind of jump back and talk about some of the characters themselves. The lead character, as we said, is Master Chief Jason Hayes, played by David Boreanaz, who is, I'd say, the hardest working man in Hollywood. I mean, this guy has been continuously working in TV for more than 20 years. He was on Buffy, then on Angel, then on Bones, and then on this. And he has not been out of work. He's gone from one to the next to the next. And all of those shows have been successful long-term series. I mean, I think Bones was 10 years?
I might have been more than that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I never saw it. Although my wife Melanie is now watching it, and people have been saying, "Oh yeah, this is good. You should watch it." So I may end up going back and watching it. But I really enjoy him in this role.
Yes.
I've had he's a pretty complex character. I think it's not one note at all. There's layers to him here. To see him struggling with being a father, being a husband, being a team leader, and then struggling with his own mortality, or even at the end of last season where he was injured in the course of a mission and refusing to kind of acknowledge his own injuries and trying
Right.
to go on, which seems like that's a sort of thing that happens, I think, sometimes.
I would imagine so. In the military, they pride themselves on being able to sort of bounce back and get right to the next thing.
Right.
And yeah, so that wouldn't surprise me as if that was unrealistic. I think, this is probably the most serious role for him, the most dramatic role.
Yeah.
And in Bones, I mean, I watched Bones in the beginning, but it's one of those shows that just went on. I think it just went on a little too long.
Right.
And after about 7 years, you're like, okay, is this ending?
Right.
It's like, all right, I've done 7 years of this. I don't know if I can go another 7 more.
Yeah, you've just described me in NCIS about 4 or 5 years ago.
Exactly. So,
which I love the show, but it was the time to go.
I know. So I watched Bones for a while, and eventually I tapped out. Well, his character was more of a smart alecky kind of fun character, FBI agent. Whereas I think Jason Hayes is a more, button down,
serious.
Let's do the job.
Yeah.
I'm serious. This is serious business. We got to be, not that he can't have fun and not that he doesn't laugh, but it's a
more serious character.
Much more serious character.
Right. And then we have Spencer, who's the new guy. And he's sort of the legacy. Like we said, his dad was a Navy SEAL who had written a tell-all book, but we've kind of dropped that aspect.
Yeah,
of
storyline has seemed to have gone away.
Yeah, and we're focused really on Spencer and his girlfriend, which is she's sort of an interesting character. His girlfriend, who he met her in a bar. She's the reason I kind of affinity is she's a English professor who teaches literature at the local community college, which was what my wife was when I met her, and so she was not part of this life. She's not military. She's in fact they don't come out and say it, but she was probably fairly liberal in her politics and her
it
outlook.
Seemed like it, yeah.
Certainly her parents were, and that was actually one of the fun scenes was when Clay met Stella's parents.
Oh yeah, this year, yeah,
and the parents, especially the dad, were really like down on the military and gung ho sort of stuff, and he kind of puts them in their place. He's like, look. What did he say? He said, "I don't necessarily agree with the politics of our nation's leaders or our foreign policy, but I have a job to do, and I'm doing it.
Right.
And my job is to carry that and to protect the freedom and to protect your freedom, and that's what I'm doing. And and I love your daughter, and that's that."
Yeah, and I think they were almost in a sense they were kind of putting him down as like he was some sort of dummy.
Yeah,
because he was doing this and he wasn't worthy of their PhD daughter,
right?
Who had all this going for her, and he's just some sort of military lackey and not even an officer. But
he speaks 6 languages and and it actually kind of reveals a lot actually about a lot of special forces guys. They actually tend to be highly educated.
Yes.
They're encouraged to continue schooling, to learn languages. Most special forces guys are very well educated people. They're not gorillas and grunts. By and large. So it's,
by and large, yeah.
By and large.
And I think I think her defense of him was impassioned as well.
Yes.
And I liked that, and it's not that her politics have necessarily changed, but I think she sees the military in a different way than
Right.
she may have when before she met Spencer, and that's a reasonable and realistic change in a
Yes.
person's outlook.
Yeah, in fact, she has said some things in this season when dealing with when someone dies in the teams, whether it's a family member or one of the team members, how she was like, how the team comes together to care for its own, to do whatever it takes to, if the kids need to be driven to school or the other things, they drive them. If someone needs to go over and make a meal, they do it, or do their laundry or whatever it is, and so I think she's sort of impressed by how it becomes this they're a family, and it's not just a platitude. It's real. They live it out, and I thought that was and I think a lot of people find that true serving in the military in general, that they become part of a large family. Sometimes better, sometimes not as good, and it sort of depends on the unit you're attached to. But there is that when families become connected because their loved ones are in the same unit.
Right, and this year she got a full taste of that by having to organize that potluck or whatever it was for that person. No, it was for Alana died. Yeah, and so she kind of got drawn into that, and she just did it, and I was like, wow, this is her baptism by fire.
Right.
This is the team, and that's the other thing I think that they talk about being team guys,
right?
And that's like that's the highest honor you can say about one of them is you're a team guy.
Yes.
You're a team guy. And they pride themselves on that,
right?
And it trickles down to the families, I think.
I think so. I think it really comes out like that, and then whenever there's a loss, the team is connected. They come together. But yeah, that bond is very real and strong.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other characters, so talk about the other team members, is I think probably the third element of the team is Ray. So he was Jason's second in command of Bravo team until recently. He had injured himself early on in the first season, and then kind of hid this injury from Jason, and then at one point in the near the end of the last season, the injury caused the death of a civilian kid. Actually, as he was throwing back this grenade, he couldn't throw it as far and ended up landing where this kid got killed. And he took it personally, took it hard. He got cleared of responsibility, but he still carried the responsibility. And Jason, kind of over the top, he really I think he was harder on him than Ray was. I think.
Yeah.
And for the first part of this season, Ray was not allowed to be back on the team.
No, he was in training.
Yeah, he was
a trainer.
And that's to get knocked off an active team to the what they call a green team or the trainer team is a big come down. What did you? I kind of felt like Hayes was almost being unreasonable in that.
I think that's a good way of putting it, because I was thinking what's a good way of putting that?
He's being a jerk.
He was really being unreasonable, over the top, I thought.
Yeah.
And if I have one nitpicky thing about this season, it's that. And I that was, I listen, I understand. I mean, I understand how he felt. He felt betrayed. But you know what? He hid his concussion.
Right.
And didn't think anything of it.
Right.
And so and I kept on thinking to myself, now he really is double standarding Ray here. And that didn't sit right with me, because Ray's supposed to be his best friend.
Right. And maybe that was even more why he did it, I guess.
Maybe.
But I think the reason they dragged it out was because they needed to wait until after this last episode, this
right.
Say again your last, for the resolution, for him to be brought back. So for Jason to come back to the team. And like Ray was there for him when he's dealing with Alana's death.
Oh,
he was solidly there. And then on this mission, like we had said, they had to bring in Ray at the last minute because Adam was the team leader. They needed another guy. Ray, they brought in. He was number 6 instead of number 2. But Clay ended up getting injured and then kind of freezing up when he had to take command. And so it was Ray who took command and really got things done. And so I think that's how we get the resolution of that is sort of Ray redeems himself in that moment.
Right. Yeah, Ray sort of saves the team in a sense.
Yes.
And brings them together and gets the job done, and that's sort of the resolution of that storyline. It was interesting. I want to see if they develop this Clay froze kind of moment during the rest of the season to see if that's something that comes up, like, well, you froze in Mumbai, and or something, something bad happens. I just want to see what happens with that because I think that'll be an interesting story arc.
That would be interesting. So another element of the team is they have these sort of ancillary or support personnel, and one of them is Mandy, who is a CIA officer assigned to the team. And it's an interesting idea, which is that a lot of times, these elite DevGru teams are sent out on missions based on intelligence that the CIA gets about ISIS or other situations, like terrorists or other things like that. And such that they were really integrated into the team. I mean, she is almost permanently assigned to work with this particular team, which is an interesting development. As a character, I find her also interesting. We don't know anything really about her personal life or her background, as we said before. But I think that's okay. I think she's an interesting character nonetheless. I mean, little bits come out about her professional relationships with other like intelligence or let's just say spies in other countries or in our own country. But I'm okay with that. She doesn't have to be in a relationship with one of the SEAL guys and create drama, or you know what I mean? There's a refreshing lack of that sort of.
Yeah, I would say that's I would say that's true with her. I think, although I think there is a connection between her and Jason. Yeah, that's pretty strong, and I don't know if it's just a platonic friendship, which it might be, and or a brother and sister kind of relationship or something like that. But they have a deep respect for each other. Yeah, and I think he respects her abilities to protect herself, to bring them in the information they need. She's obviously good at her job. I don't think there's been any episodes where her intelligence, got them, jammed up in any way. Right. She's a professional, and I think that's been very good. It's been an interesting. That doesn't mean that they're not going to try and bring these two together at some point. I hope they don't. You know they might because Alana's dead and boppity boo. So. It's just one of those dangers. I know. Danger zones. I hope they resist the temptation. I do too. So a couple of things that folks might be asking about the show is it's a military show about a military unit. Is it too violent? I would say certainly people die, people are killed, people get shot. I don't think it's primetime network TV. It's not like super gory, or it's not gory at all, really. No. Pretty clinical. Yeah, people drop to the ground, and there might be a pool of blood on the ground occasionally, but that's about it. I mean, there's not. That's although what happened to Adam, they kind of showed. That was nasty. Yeah, that was no worse than you'd see on CSI. So I think that's about as bad as it gets. Yeah. But it's not really for kids. But I'd say it's somewhat restrained in the violence department. Given what the subject matter is. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's not like we said. It's not a gore fest. It's when they go into a situation and they start shooting, they shoot, and they almost show it from the point of view of the different guys, and it's almost like watching a video game, to be perfectly honest. Right. So, the guy drops, and then they move on. They just move past him. So once a guy's dead, they don't even care about what's going on with him because they're more worried about who's coming around the corner. Right. Very professional. Very professional. Yeah.
What?
and a lot of times too, like even in at the hotel in Mumbai,
Yep.
the dog
Yes.
Cerebus
Yes.
gets deployed with like a camera, and so they can sort of see what's upcoming ahead.
I love Cerberus. The dog is awesome.
I do too. The dog is great.
He parachutes in. He does everything the seals do. I mean, this dog is the best dog ever. He is cool.
He really is. I every time I watch him, I'm like, oh man, I wish that was my dog. And I had a dog almost just like it.
Yeah.
So but I really like that character. You know, the other one of the other characters that we need to talk about is Sonny.
Yes, he was my next on my list. So Sonny
Yeah.
is a longtime team member who probably should have been next in line when Ray was out. He should have been
Right.
second in command. But Sonny he's not. He doesn't want to be a leader. He doesn't see himself as a leader. He's kind of volatile. He's a bit unpredictable.
He's
And
big.
yeah, and he's better at shooting than he is at leading in that sense,
Right.
and he knows it. He just knows where his place is. He's a funny character.
He is.
There's this new guy who's their EOD, their explosive ordnance disposal guy, who's a California surfer dude who who knows that he gets under Sonny's skin when he does like sort of the new agey hippie stuff.
Yeah.
Because Sonny's from Texas, and it's a very funny relationship.
It is.
But I like Sonny.
I do too, because he's sort of like what I expect those guys to be like, you know, in a lot of ways. And I think it was at the end of the last episode, his coping mechanism for grief is to drink. And not just like anything, but he's drinking like Maker's Mark straight out of the bottle.
Right.
And I was like, okay, Sonny, I get you.
Now, I'm trying to remember where I had seen him in before. Right. He was in CSI New York. That's right.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. He was a regular on that. He was one of the technicians.
So, I never watched that show, so
very different role, which is why I was like, why? Like, where have I seen him before? But that's what it was. He was in CSI New York. Yeah, I like Sonny. Davis is another support character. She is their logistics. Like if they need a dune buggy in Oman, she gets the dune buggy for them. If they need if they need to be dressed like I don't know, oil salesman in Kiev, she gets it. Like she's like the fixer. And she's an interesting character. Last season, she had this. They had her having this relationship with a former team member who had to retire because he was injured, and they had that going on. This season, they have her looking to go to officer candidate school. She's not an officer; she's enlisted, and so I'm kind of curious where they go with that, because if she goes to OCS, she's not going to be on the show,
right?
Unless
I have a feeling she's not going to go.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. So she's probably closest to Sonny. They're friends.
Yeah, they're friends.
Yep.
And I love their relationship because it's like big brother, little sister, and they're very close. I think that's an excellent relationship because it's not certainly something that's going anywhere. Right. Romantic. And I think the more of those kinds of relationships they can show on TV because they're real, I think that's good.
I think that's good too. Not everything has to end up being a romantic relationship.
Exactly.
So, one role that has, or character who has been sort of upgraded for season 2 is the team's commanding officer, Blackburn, Lieutenant Commander Blackburn. So he doesn't go out in the field with the guys. I mean, he goes on the plane to the place and has but he's at
he's sort of mission control.
Mission control. That's right. In the first season, he didn't have a whole lot to do, but in this season, they're giving him more, and I like that. In fact, I like the character. I think he's a good character, and I think he can add something to the show. So that's I'm happy with that.
Yeah, no, that was a good upgrade for the show, in my opinion.
So, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, this show, we've talked a lot about the characters, we talked a lot about the military, but it's in a sense it's an extension of a family show, right? I mean, it's a family show, and the values that the family has, right, and the rules that the family has, and while it's a military show, they operate in that way, like I mean, Jason's sort of like the father figure. And,
Yes.
It's how it kind of boils down into all the different roles that they all have. And Clay Spencer's like the little brother who's coming along, and let's bring the little brother along and see if we can bring him up to speed,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right.
And I really enjoy that aspect of it because I think it's great. I think it's just that's probably how it is.
So one thing I like about the show is that it's unapologetically patriotic. It's not cynical about it. It's not, and it's like a lot of the CBS military shows like NCIS and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is it's pro-military, pro our people in uniform. It's not about our foreign policy as a country and the political stuff.
Nope.
But it's firmly patriotic, pro-American, and pro our military people. And I really enjoy that. I'm glad I don't have to watch with a cringe, like waiting for the cynical little stab in the back at some point in the show. So I do like that. As far as maybe we should talk about the morality. So there's the morality of their work, which is they break things and kill people.
Right.
Then there's their morality of their personal lives. We could talk about that a little bit first. So Clay lives with his girlfriend. That's not good. We know that that's a pretty basic moral teaching. Sonny, well, we know Sonny goes to strip clubs and he lives a pretty dissolute life.
He does. He's a one night stand guy.
Right. But one of the things it shows is the difficulties that being in this kind of career has for people doing it, like in their personal lives.
Personal lives are sometimes a mess. Yeah,
there's a cost to it, and as we see with Jason getting divorced, and even Ray. In the first season, we had a big thing about like Ray's wife being pregnant, and will he be on a mission when she goes into labor, and what do they do? And actually, I think they had to get him back from him, like they were coming back from a mission, and they had to get him back really quick to get there in time for the baby to be born and that sort of thing. So there's that personal morality, and so like we said, I'm not making excuses for it, but it feels real in some ways. Only guys who've lived in that can tell us for sure how real it feels. But certainly I wouldn't approve of some of the lifestyle stuff that they do. But I don't think it's either. Some of it's a little in your face, a little bit. Clay and Stella stuff sometimes is like, don't need to have that on TV.
Right, and I think at least Clay and Stella seem to be moving towards marriage.
Yes,
and that's a big deal. I think with Ray, Ray's a very faithful guy.
Yes,
I think Ray has a lot of faith. And it's important to him, and he's even used it in a sense to help Jason get through some things. And I think that's an important aspect of it because a lot of the guys in the military are faithful guys.
Right.
It's a big aspect of military life.
This past September, I was on a vacation with my family, and we were going through Kentucky. And Sunday, we happened to be in Campbelltown, Kentucky, which is home of the 101st Airborne. And we were at St. Michael the Archangel Church right outside the base for Mass. And you could tell there were nobody in uniform, but you could tell the people were squared away. They were. But also there was much of, like, St. Michael is kind of revered as he's a sort of a patron saint for Airborne.
Yeah.
He's an archangel. He flies. Get it? Airborne. Yeah. But also there was a lot of stuff in the church that shows that this is a parish community for the soldiers and their families. You're right. I think that it's important. The faith is important for a lot of soldiers. Certainly chaplains will tell you that it comes up a lot for them. And in the show, like in in the most recent episode when they're bringing Adam's body home, we have a voiceover of Ray reciting Joshua 1:9, which is so powerful. It was because kind of they were talking about they were reciting this poem or this motto for special forces.
I think it was a creed of the
Creed, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. And then you have Ray reciting Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And I'm like, wow, like that's right there on network primetime TV.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see it being done, not cynically, just straight up,
straightforward. Yeah. No, I agree, and I think Ray he's sort of the moral center of the group in a lot of ways. Even though he hid his injury from Jason,
right?
He didn't do it because he wanted to be a scofflaw. He did it because he knew the team was deploying and he wanted to go on the deployment.
Yes,
and he wanted to be there with the team.
Right, to be there for the team. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was some people can criticize Ray for doing that, but I think he did it for the right reasons.
Yes. So the other big faith moment that I recall from the both seasons was in actually the very first episode where Jason's son was receiving his first communion.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think it might have been the first scene of the first episode was they were at church and then receiving first communion, and then they all get the call, like they get a text on their phone that they got to deploy. So very quickly showing the difficulties of their family life. But I thought it was interesting that they right off the bat they show Jason's own Catholic faith and his family, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and even to just jump up ahead to the last episode, it was also Alana's funeral.
Yes,
was had a very Catholic flavor to it. Pretty well done, not perfect, but pretty well done
for TV.
For TV, exactly.
Yeah,
and I've always wanted to be a technical advisor, on these shows.
Yeah,
it's driving me nuts. Can we just do it right?
Right.
There's power in doing it right.
Yes.
So, but I think Faith is never far away from these characters, ever, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think that's been one of the drawing points for me. Plus it's just so realistic.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is. Like, I've never talked to a Navy SEAL about it, but it just feels right.
Yeah. The one thing I've met a Navy SEAL once. So in 1986, when I was my first year in college, I was in Navy ROTC. Long story why I didn't finish it, but when that year we had a SEAL come to talk to us, and in his dress blues, his the very fancy uniform. And one of the things that stands out when you meet a SEAL in that is the big eagle with trident and emblem. I mean, the thing is giant. Like,
right.
It's so, like, in a sense, gaudy, but they know it. They earned it.
Right.
But you see this guy, and like if he was in a suit, he'd be like, "Oh, what are you, like an accountant or something?" Like, he was fit, obviously, but he didn't look like a knuckle dragging warrior, that sort of thing. Until you looked in his eyes, and he had a look. I mean, there was a look of some, like, because what these guys go through to become a SEAL, never mind to become Dev Group
Tier 1 operator.
Yeah, I mean, but what they go through just to become a SEAL is incredible. That where 99 out of 100 guys won't make it,
right?
And it's all mental. It's not really about the physical.
No,
but
I agree with that.
But when you look in his eyes and you see that there's something different about this guy, not crazy, but that there's a focus and intensity, something about him, and I kind of feel like, as much as you allow for drama and fiction and all that sort of stuff that they have to do in this, I think they do a pretty good job of kind of showing us a little bit what that's like. Certainly not. I mean, the real thing has got to be vastly more than what we see.
Absolutely.
But for entertainment that also kind of gives us some kind of insight, I think this is up there. And I enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
I love watching the show. I love the interaction with the team, because I think that's a guy thing.
Yeah.
Like a guy thing. We love being in groups of guys and doing stuff. And
The Brotherhood.
the brotherhood, exactly. And we love that. Men love that stuff, and I think that's an important thing to show on TV, that this group of guys will do what they need to do for each other, for their country, and for their families. And I think that's a good thing to have on TV.
Yes, I agree.
And it does pretty well in the ratings. It's okay. Number 2 show for its time period.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. So it's down a little bit from last season in the first airings. Which I want it to be up. I mean, with the change, I wanted it to go up. But as you say, it's number 2 in its time slot, which is good. And I want it to continue. I mean, me
too.
This is must see viewing for me. I look forward to seeing this every week. Not every show is like that for me.
Me too. Absolutely, I agree, 100%.
So, all right. So that's the Secrets of SEAL Team. I think that's it from us. So, folks, what do you think of SEAL Team? Have you watched it? Do you enjoy it? Are you a U.S. Navy SEAL currently or formerly, and would like to have something to say about it, even anonymously, to give us an insight? I'd love to hear from you. If you are a chaplain in the military or whatever branch, and you had something interesting to add to the discussion, we'd love to hear from you. So you could do that by going to sqpn.com/secrets or to the SQPN Facebook page, and you could find the link to this episode and leave a comment there. Or you can send us an email to secrets@sqpn.com. If you do that, we tell us, just let me know, and we'll keep your name anonymous if you need it to be. I understand in this particular circumstance why that might be a prudent idea. We can even take a voicemail. If you send us a voice memo, you could record that with your phone in the voice memos app and attach it to an email. That we'll do that as well. You can find relevant links for our discussion on our show notes on sqpn.com. And if you're not subscribed to the podcast, like I said, be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn. And remember to write a review, to like, to comment, to share, help us grow, to reach more people. And please go to sqpn.com/give and support the show. Help us to pay our bills and continue to offer this podcast and our other podcasts. Until next time, Father Chip Hines, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of SEAL Team.
Thank you, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Movies and TV Shows on StarQuest. This is Dom Bettinelli again. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast and that you'll help us keep producing the podcast you love. Thank you for your generosity. To make your pledge and find out about the free thank you gifts we'd like to send you, visit sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give.